Hey guys, Jordan with Elite BSC, and today we're going to respond to a question that was posed on BaseCamp in our group from one of our members, Manasseh.
Yeah.
We'll out him on this question here. But he's a friend, and we love him, and he's building a great company. So here, I'm going to just read the question out loud here. He says, I'm curious, how do you measure this metric? He's talking about lead generation, right?
Yeah, yep.
In our industry, the sales cycle tends to be longer, which makes it harder to evaluate performance in real time. I'm trying to figure out how to tell whether the issue is with our salesperson or with lead generation. We've hit a plateau on the sales side, and I want to make sure we're addressing the real problem. So it's a really good question. So generally speaking, we hear the term lead gen. What does it mean maybe in our industry?
Yeah. So if you just Google search what is lead generation, you're going to get 1,000 things. Here's a kind of I would say a working definition for us. It's a process of attracting prospects, which are people working at companies we want to do business with, and holding their interest in capturing details so we can eventually convert those people into customers. And really kind of the goal of B2B lead generation is to build a list of companies and contacts that you can nurture until they become a customer. Now, what's interesting is I looked this up on HubSpot has a state of marketing report. They say that 61% of marketers consider lead generation their top challenge. So it's one of those things that can be somewhat challenging.
Yeah. And we would second that.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it's the first two phases of the sales and marketing process, which is building a list and then making an initial connection with those people. And there's really two methods, I guess, that people do to do lead gen here. And these is inbound activities, which is getting people to come to you through things you're putting out there online, maybe SEO or AdWords or whatever, stuff like that. And so that's fish swimming to the boat. And then there's outbound activities, which is where you're making a direct contact out there with telephone calls, emails, LinkedIn, that sort of thing.
That's right.
Is that fair,
it's kind of the pulling and pushing. So you're pulling prospects or you're pushing your message in front of them. Yeah, and so when people are asking about lead generation, you really kind of have to look at both those, inbound and outbound. And so here's the thing, primary challenge I think that companies have, especially in our industry as it relates to business growth, is a limited availability of funds. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in our group that's just got tons of money to spend on, inbound and outbound activities. So then we have to say what's the best place or what's the best spend of the limited dollars that we have. Yeah. And I would say there is no answer. So if you were to say which is the best, I would say, well, it depends. It depends on your market. Your market being the types of customers you're pursuing and also the geography as well. I think people ought to have some approach in inbound and outbound. And so at France, though, we've really chosen to put most of our eggs in the outbound basket. So the bulk of our lead generation activities are centered around having a really robust outbound program. And so we do spend a great deal of time doing research, finding prospects, and then making outbound calls and emails to connect with potential buyers of services. And I'll make a point. This is really hard work, and it takes time to do.
Yeah. And we've tried the inbound stuff over time at various phases and done different things, and to maybe do a little bit. But the return on investment that we can see has just always been minuscule, whereas with the outbound efforts, there's some more tangible results that you can directly show a cause-effect relationship with there.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's maybe return to the question, how can someone know if they're having a lead gen problem?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's part of the question that Manasseh asked. So I would say the first thing is how many qualified, and when I say qualified, it's qualified companies fit your ideal customer profile, and associated contacts are being added to your growth database. So growth database would just be another way of saying your CRM. I would say this would be a good number to track each month. And this metric, I would say this metric is often overlooked, but it's an important metric to say how active are we in adding new things into our database. And not only new things, new companies and contacts, but qualified prospects as well. The second thing, so that's number of prospects in your database. The second one is prospect movement. And this is a measure of how your team is doing moving prospects from what we call that pre-qualified stage into another status. Now, we call them MQLs and SQLs and opportunities, but you could call them colds, warms, and hots. And so it's just how you're moving them through.
Right.
So you would want to measure the number of companies and contacts in the database month over month, number of encounters, emails, telephone calls. You could even include drop-by visits, because that's a way to try to get that information to move them through the funnel. LinkedIn messages as well. And then month over month of the number of prospective companies by each status. And if there's not much database growth and or there's not much pipeline movement, then you probably do have a lead gen problem. That's where you need to look.
Okay. So one of the common questions that I get, I just had an email yesterday about this that I saw, is how many leads per month should you expect to have? Or appointments, maybe.
Yeah.
So leads that have turned into appointments or an opportunity for you. Like, is there a number for that?
Well, yeah, it depends. I mean, it depends on the type of customers you're going after and then what you call an appointment. I have found that it's really hard to get an appointment just to go in and talk to somebody about your company and what you provide. I mean, I used to be a buyer of janitorial services, and I would have a number of people come by and want to meet with me about janitorial services. We were happy with the vendor we were in with. I didn't want to have any discussion. So really what we're talking about in terms of appointments is the opportunity to present a proposal. So that whole vendor selection process. So I don't know that if you are pursuing larger customers, like for instance at France Building Services, we would be comfortable with 3 to 4 facility tours, proposal opportunities in a month. When I look, I just kind of, at France, if we had 3 to 4 opportunities per month, and that's 30 to 40 opportunities a year, and if we win 30% of that, that's 10 to 11 per year at $20,000 a month. That's $2.5 million in run rate revenue. So it all depends on your size, and so it's hard to answer that question. But I think it is something to look at, and start with how much do you want to grow, what's your win rate, and then how many appointments do you need to get?
Because smaller customers, there'd be a lot more of them.
Yeah.
Like quicker sales cycle, able to get in the door.
That's right.
Or it could depend on how big your market is. Like if you're stuck in a geographic market that's much smaller.
That's right.
You can't expect a ton of proposals in a given month
Yeah.
if you're going after a certain size account. So it would depend.
Yeah. And I would tell you, I mean, it really is important to differentiate between an appointment and an opportunity to present a proposal, because that's really it. I mean, I would judge the lead generation effort if what drops out the bottom is the number of opportunities I have to present a proposal. That's really what I'm looking for, and not necessarily, hey, did you have an opportunity to go out and have lunch with somebody?
Yeah. Okay, so let's answer the second part of the initial question is how do I know if my problem is sales?
Yeah,
like, am I having a sales problem, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's right. And so this, in my opinion, is a bit easier to identify and to count. And I would say it's simply how many opportunities did we win and how many did we lose? So it's kind of straightforward. And then I think the other thing to think about is when you lose is asking the question, why? Why did we lose it? And I would tell you that everybody wants to know the answer to that question, but it's very elusive because it's hard to get good data from the customer. I mean, most of the time, many times they don't even call you back or email you back to let you know that you won or lost. And then when you get there, or you have that opportunity, most people are going to say, well, your price was a little bit too high. So that just turns out to be the default. And I even used it when I was at France. We did a great job of selling. Our price was just too high. But, there's more to that.
Right.
And then I would say in this particular area that your sales technique really comes into play, and how sales approaches the site visit specifically, because that's the first opportunity you really have to engage. And then you want to make sure that your sales team, the questions they ask during the walkthrough draws out value. And then using that information to link to what are your unique capabilities, and then also the quality of your proposal. All that kind of comes together.
Yeah. So if we're looking at end results, this how we do in the sales process, or our technique in the process, could maybe overcome some of those potential
That's right.
obstacles, like a higher price. For instance.
That's right. And you said the right word. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes your price could be a little bit higher, but if you're doing a good job on the sales side, you can overcome some of that. So one way to discern if you have a sales problem is to measure your win loss and track the loss. So one way to maybe fix this is have your salesperson or team describe the site visit process. What they do, the questions they ask before, what they do before, during, and after the visit, the questions they ask. And I would say this is just kind of best advice on this is Boy Scout, so our motto is be prepared. So coach your sales team to ask good questions. Be prepared to link the answers to those questions to what your uniqueness is, and then know your uniqueness. Yeah. And then just come across what I would call as, when in this process, being a trustworthy servant, somebody that's trustworthy and just wants to help the customer with their decision. I think that's how you fix a sales problem, if that's what your sales problem is. If you're struggling with your win-loss percentage, go to those things.
Yep. And so the moral of the story is check your growth and activity on an ongoing basis in your sales pipeline. Look at your win-loss ratio, and then maybe tweak things as it relates to your technique or the process, I guess, in trying to close a deal.
Yeah, that's right.
And see if there's anything that needs to be tweaked in that process.
That's right.
Yeah. I hope this is helpful. We have some resources on BaseCamp that you can check out that sort of go into some of these things, or maybe we could help you in preparing for some of this stuff. If we can be of help, please let us know. We'll see you next time.